To her, it's her ticket home, her connection to her family, her proof of identity in a foreign land. It is the single most important document she possesses, the one thing that guarantees her freedom of movement. But in the hands of her husband, a legal expert warns, it could become the lock on her cage. For Jenny Slatten, this American passport isn't just paper and ink. It's her escape route. An escape route that could be slammed shut legally and permanently by the very man she loves, Sumit Singh. What we are about to unveil is a terrifying legal loophole, a pattern of behavior so insidious it has been hiding in plain sight for years. This isn't just a story about a troubled relationship, it's a story about control, manipulation, and the potential for a modern form of imprisonment known as passport entrapment. She is not a free woman living abroad. She is one argument away from becoming a legal captive. This channel is dedicated to uncovering the hidden truths and asking the questions no one else will. If you believe in digging deeper and exposing the reality behind the reality show, then impress that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss a single moment of what we have uncovered. The story you are about to hear is far darker than you can imagine. What if I told you that every single major event in Jenny and Sumit's story, from the very first lie to their most recent argument, points not to a man struggling between love and family, but to a calculating individual meticulously constructing a trap from which there may be no legal escape? To understand the gravity of Jenny's situation, we must first introduce an exclusive insider report from a source we'll call Dr. Anish Sharma, a respected, albeit cautious, expert in Indian family law and international spousal disputes. Dr. Sharma agreed to speak with us on the condition of anonymity to protect his practice from the sensationalism of reality television, but his warning was dire and specific. He explained a terrifying legal mechanism that exists within the Indian judicial system, one that is known to be weaponized in contentious divorces, especially those involving a foreign spouse. It's a loophole so potent it can effectively turn a passport into a worthless booklet. Here's how it works, in his own words, simplified for our understanding. A spouse, let's call him the Indian spouse, can file a local police report, known as a First Information Report or FIR, against their foreign partner. The allegations can range from serious criminal accusations to more common and often baseless claims of domestic cruelty, financial fraud, or even threats. The key, Dr. Sharma stressed, is that the accusation doesn't need to be proven immediately. The mere act of filing an official complaint can be enough to trigger a legal cascade. Once an FIR is filed, the police can initiate an investigation. During this investigation, they can issue what is known as a lookout circular, or LOC. An LOC is essentially a digital alert sent to every single immigration checkpoint in the country, every airport, every seaport, every land border. If Jenny's name were to be placed on such a list, the moment her passport is scanned at the airport in Delhi, alarm bells would go off. She would be stopped by immigration officials. Her passport would likely be confiscated, and she would be informed that she cannot leave the country until the pending legal matter is resolved. The horror of the situation, as Dr. Sharma explained, lies in the timeline. The Indian legal system, while robust, is notoriously slow. A case born from a simple spousal complaint, even a completely fabricated one, can take years, sometimes over a decade, to wind its way through the courts. During that entire time, the foreign spouse is trapped. They cannot go home. They cannot see their family. They are stuck in a foreign country, often financially dependent on the very person who has trapped them there, forced to spend their life savings on local legal fees to fight a phantom accusation. It is the ultimate form of coercive control. The passport, a symbol of freedom, is rendered useless. The foreign spouse becomes, for all intents and purposes, a passport hostage. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds extreme. Surely this is a rare occurrence reserved for the most bitter and acrimonious of disputes. But this is where the theory becomes a chillingly plausible reality for Jenny. We must now look at Sumit's entire history, his pattern of behavior, not as a series of romantic missteps, but as the methodical actions of a controller. Let's rewind the clock. The very foundation of their relationship was a lie. He didn't just bend the truth. He constructed an entirely different human being. He presented himself as Michael Jones, a handsome, young, white-collar professional from the UK. This wasn't a small white lie. It was a complex, long-term deception, a catfish operation that required daily maintenance and a profound capacity for duplicity. This initial act tells us something fundamental about Sumit's character. He is capable of creating and living within a false reality to get what he wants. He is comfortable with deep, premeditated deceit. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a strategic choice. When Jenny first traveled to India, giving up everything in America, she walked straight into the next layer of his deception. He wasn't just hiding his true appearance. He was hiding his wife. He was living a complete double life. He would spend time with Jenny in one apartment while his lawfully wedded wife and his entire family believed he was at work. Think of the psychological fortitude required to maintain such a lie. The constant vigilance, the compartmentalization, the sheer audacity. This is not the behavior of a simple, love-struck man. This is the behavior of someone who is skilled at manipulation and control, someone who can look the person they claim to love in the eye and lie without flinching. When the truth finally came out, it wasn't because Sumit confessed. It was because he was caught. His wife's family stormed the apartment in a dramatic confrontation, exposing the entire sordid affair. Even then, his immediate reaction was not one of remorse for Jenny, but of self-preservation. This event is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It established a power dynamic that has defined their relationship ever since. Jenny was publicly humiliated, isolated, and emotionally shattered in a foreign country. Who was the only person she could turn to? Sumit. He created the crisis, and then he positioned himself as her only savior. This is a classic tactic of emotional abuse. Isolate the victim, create chaos, and then become their sole source of stability and comfort. From that moment on, Jenny was no longer just a partner. She was a project, a person to be managed and controlled. Her world shrank until he was at its center, the gatekeeper of her happiness and her future in India. Now let's examine the most critical element: Jenny's legal status in India. For years, we have watched her struggle with visas. It has been a constant source of stress, a ticking clock that dictates her life. We, the audience, have largely seen this as a bureaucratic nightmare, a tragic consequence of their age gap and Sumit's parents' disapproval. But what if it wasn't just bad luck? What if Jenny's perpetual visa insecurity was not a problem for Sumit, but a tool of control? Let's look at the evidence. Every time her tourist visa was about to expire, it created a crisis that put Jenny in a state of panic and desperation. And in each crisis, who held all the cards? Sumit. He was the one who knew the language, the culture, the legal system. She was completely dependent on him to navigate the labyrinthine process of extending her stay. Consider the options they explored. At one point, a lawyer explicitly told them that marriage was the clearest and most direct path to securing Jenny a long-term visa, giving her legal residency and a path to citizenship. It was the one true solution to her problem. And what was Sumit's reaction? He resisted. For years, he delayed, he made excuses, he blamed his parents, he claimed he needed their blessing, a blessing he knew was unlikely to ever come. He allowed Jenny to live in a state of constant uncertainty, with the threat of deportation hanging over her head every few months. This uncertainty served a purpose. It kept her compliant. It kept her grateful for every small extension, for every extra month he won for her. A secure, legally recognized Jenny with permanent residency would be a more independent Jenny. She would have rights. She might feel empowered enough to leave if she were unhappy. An insecure Jenny, living on borrowed time, is a controllable Jenny. Let's not forget the bizarre and ultimately fruitless attempt to secure a missionary visa through the Hare Krishna movement. This was presented as a genuine, albeit creative solution, but looking at it through the lens of our theory, it appears far more sinister. It was another delay tactic, another wild goose chase that put the responsibility on Jenny to conform to a new set of religious and cultural norms, further isolating her from her own identity. It was a perfect distraction, making it seem like they were trying everything possible, while conveniently avoiding the one thing that would actually solve the problem: marriage. It kept the charade going, extending the period of her dependency while he continued to enjoy the benefits of their arrangement. And what are those benefits? This brings us to the crucial motive: finances. Jenny Slatten is not a wealthy woman, but she has something Sumit desperately needs: a steady, reliable source of foreign income. Her American Social Security check. In the context of the Indian economy, particularly in the region where they live, her modest monthly payment represents a comfortable and stable lifestyle. It is their primary, if not sole, source of income. Sumit has shown little ambition or ability to earn a comparable living on his own. He is, by all accounts, financially dependent on her. This is a complete reversal of the traditional power dynamic one might expect. He is the local, she is the foreigner, yet she holds the purse strings. This creates a significant problem for a man obsessed with control. So how does he neutralize this? By ensuring that while the money is American, it can only be spent in India, under his roof, and his watch. His entire strategy appears to be built around one core objective: keeping Jenny and her income in India, where he has the home field advantage. If Jenny were to leave, his comfortable lifestyle would evaporate overnight. He has an overwhelming financial incentive to prevent her from ever returning to the United States permanently. He has created the perfect situation for himself. He gets the benefit of a Western income without ever having to move, without having to adapt to a new culture, and without having to relinquish the control he has over her in his own environment. His pattern of control extends beyond legal and financial matters. It is deeply personal and psychological. Notice how he has systematically isolated her. She is thousands of miles away from her children, her grandchildren, and her friends. She has no independent support network in India. Her entire social life revolves around him, and to a lesser extent, his friends and family who have, for the most part, been hostile towards her. When they argue, she has no one to turn to, no friend's couch to sleep on, no family member to call for a ride. She is an island, and he is the only bridge to the mainland. He controls her transportation, her social interactions, and her understanding of the world around her. He is her translator, not just of the language, but of the culture. She sees India through his eyes, and he can frame any situation however he sees fit. This level of isolation is a giant red flag for coercive control. It creates a dependency so profound that the victim can begin to lose their sense of self. Even after they finally married, a step Jenny believed would be the ultimate validation of their love and the solution to her problems, the control continued. The marriage did not suddenly empower her. Instead, it gave Sumit the one legal document he needed to execute the final phase of his plan, should he ever need to. By marrying her, he legally bound her to him under Indian law. This wasn't just a romantic commitment, it was a legal entanglement. The marriage certificate, which Jenny saw as a symbol of her security, could in fact be the very document used to entrap her. Because now they are not just a couple, they are legally spouses, and that gives him standing to file the very type of spousal complaint Dr. Sharma warned us about. Let's put all the pieces together. We have a man who, from day one, has proven himself to be a comfortable and proficient liar, capable of maintaining complex deceptions for years. We have a man who has systematically isolated his partner from her home, her family, and her culture. We have a man who has a clear and powerful financial motive to keep his partner and her income within his country. We have a man who for years actively resisted the one solution, marriage, that would have given his partner legal security and independence. And now we have a man who is legally married, giving him the full power of a spouse under Indian law. Every single one of these points is a brick in the wall of a cage he has been building around Jenny for a decade. The only thing missing is the lock. And that lock, according to our expert, is a simple piece of paper. A police complaint, an FIR. That is all it would take. Imagine a scenario. They have a major argument, one worse than any we've seen on television. Perhaps Jenny finally puts her foot down. She says she's had enough of his family's disrespect, enough of his empty promises. She says, "That's it, I'm booking a flight home. I'm going back to America." At that moment, Sumit is faced with a choice. Does he let his entire lifestyle, his financial security, walk out the door? Or does he play the ultimate trump card? Does he make a call? Does he go to the local police station and file a report? He could claim anything. He could claim she has been emotionally cruel. He could twist their financial arrangement and claim she has been fraudulent. He could claim she threatened him. The specifics don't even matter. The point is, he could initiate a process that would flag her passport and prevent her from leaving. She would arrive at the airport, bags packed, heart set on home, only to be told she is under investigation and cannot leave the country. She would be confused, terrified, and utterly alone. Her passport, her key to freedom, would be useless. She would be forced to stay in India, to hire lawyers, to fight a legal battle in a system she doesn't understand, all while living under the roof of the man who trapped her there. He would have achieved total and absolute control. He could even play the victim, telling her he had no choice, that she pushed him to it, that if she just cooperates and does what he says, maybe he'll drop the charges. It is a checkmate position from which there is almost no escape. This is not some far-fetched conspiracy theory. It is a documented phenomenon. Passport entrapment, sometimes called passport hostage-taking, is a real and terrifying reality for many expatriates, particularly women, in countries with legal systems that can be easily manipulated. It is a hidden form of domestic abuse, one that leverages immigration law and bureaucracy as weapons. We have been watching the setup for this play out for years, mistaking it for a messy love story. We have seen the red flags, but we have called them by other names: cultural differences, family drama, communication issues. But if you look at the pattern, if you follow the evidence from the Michael Jones lie all the way to their current married life, the conclusion is chilling. Jenny Slatten is not just in an unhappy or difficult marriage. She is in a dangerously precarious position. Every decision Sumit has made has served to increase her dependency and his control. The slow, methodical erosion of her independence has been masterful in its cruelty. He lured her to India with a fantasy. He broke her down with the truth of his first marriage. He kept her in a state of perpetual anxiety with visa issues. He isolated her from anyone who could offer her an outside perspective. And he secured her financial resources as his own. He has created a situation where he holds all the power, and she is a guest in his country, a guest who is only allowed to stay, and perhaps only allowed to leave at his discretion. The love story we thought we were watching may, in fact, be the final chapter in a tragedy that has already been written. Jenny thinks she holds a round-trip ticket, but she may discover, when it's too late, that Sumit has quietly canceled the return journey. And the Indian legal system may be the airline that honors that cancellation. Every piece is on the board. The trap has been set. The only question that remains is whether the door has already been locked. Let us now dissect the anatomy of Sumit's excuses, for they are not random justifications, but carefully chosen instruments of psychological warfare. For years, the primary shield he used to deflect any and all commitment was his parents, Anil and Sahna. On the surface, this appeared to be a genuine cultural dilemma. We, the Western audience, were led to believe he was a dutiful son caught in an impossible conflict between traditional family values and modern love. We saw a man tormented by the fear of shaming his family and being disowned. But our insider, Dr. Sharma, offers a more cynical and strategically sound interpretation. He suggests that Sumit did not see his parents' disapproval as an obstacle, but as the perfect, unassailable excuse. It was a cultural barrier that Jenny, as an American, could never fully comprehend or overcome on her own. It placed the problem outside of their relationship, making it an external force they had to fight together, with him as the general. Think about it. Every time Jenny pushed for marriage, for legal security, Sumit could retreat behind the fortress of his parents' anger. He could say, "I want to, my love, but you see how they are. We have to be patient. We have to do this my way." He weaponized his own culture against her. He became the sole interpreter of this complex family drama, the gatekeeper of all information. He controlled the narrative completely. He could tell Jenny they were making progress when they weren't. He could exaggerate his parents' threats to frighten her into compliance. He could position himself as her valiant protector, fighting a daily battle against his own family for their love, all while doing absolutely nothing to change the fundamental situation. It was a masterful performance. He earned her sympathy, her patience, and her gratitude, all while systematically denying her the one thing she truly needed: a secure legal future in India. His parents weren't his problem. They were his alibi. This dynamic also served another crucial purpose: isolation. The constant hostility from Anil and Sana ensured Jenny could never form a genuine, independent bond with Sumit's family. They were not a potential support system for her. They were a source of pain and anxiety. This meant that within the entire family unit, Sumit was her only friend, her only confidant. His parents' rejection pushed her further into his arms, making her even more dependent on him for emotional support and a sense of belonging. He created a them against the world mentality, which is an incredibly powerful tool for a manipulator. When you feel like the entire world is against you, you cling ever more tightly to the one person you believe is on your side, never suspecting that person may be the architect of your isolation. Let's re-examine some key moments from their journey through this new, terrifying lens. Remember the dramatic ring ceremony Sumit organized? It was presented as a grand romantic gesture, a way to show Jenny his commitment without officially defying his parents. Jenny was overjoyed, believing it was a significant step forward. But what was it really? Legally, it was meaningless. It gave her zero rights, zero security. It was what one might call a pacification ritual. It was a performance designed to quell her anxieties and buy him more time. He gave her the theater of a wedding without any of the legal substance. He got to look like the romantic hero. Jenny was temporarily satisfied, and the fundamental power dynamic remained unchanged. He was still in control, and she was still living on a visa with a ticking clock. Now consider the intervention of the family astrologer. This was another moment steeped in cultural tradition, making it difficult for Jenny to question. The astrologer's vague pronouncements and warnings about timing conveniently supported Sumit's agenda of delay. Was this a coincidence? Or was it another example of Sumit using the cultural traditions he knew she wouldn't challenge to manipulate the situation to his advantage? He could present the astrologer's advice as a sacred, unavoidable truth, effectively silencing Jenny's pleas for immediate action. He wasn't the one saying no. The universe was. He was simply the humble messenger. It's a brilliant tactic, absolving him of all responsibility while ensuring his objective is met. Even the very act of finally getting married was not the straightforward victory it seemed. He dragged his feet until the last possible moment, until he was backed into a corner, and then he performed the act in secret. The secrecy itself is a red flag. It wasn't about protecting his parents' feelings, it was about maintaining control of the narrative. By marrying in secret, he denied Jenny the public validation and the celebratory integration into the family that she craved. It kept the marriage on his terms, a clandestine affair that could be hidden or revealed as he saw fit. And once the news was out, what changed? The dynamic with his parents didn't magically resolve. The tension remained. But Sumit had finally acquired the one thing he needed to lock the cage. He had the marriage certificate. He was now legally her husband under Indian law, with all the rights and powers that title affords him, including the right to file a spousal complaint. This brings us to their life post-marriage, as seen in the recent seasons of Happily Ever After. The nature of their arguments has shifted, and this shift is deeply revealing. The central conflict is no longer about if they will get married. The conflict is now about Jenny's behavior as a wife. Sumit's mask of the patient, loving partner has begun to slip, revealing a much more demanding and controlling man beneath. He has started to criticize her, to try and mold her into his ideal of a traditional Indian wife. He complains about her housekeeping. He expresses displeasure when she wants to go out and socialize, or roam around, as he puts it. He tries to dictate how she should spend her days. This is phase 2 of the plan. The legal trap has been sprung with marriage. Now, the psychological conditioning begins. He wants the benefits of her Western income, but he wants the compliance of a traditional wife. He is no longer trying to win her over, he is trying to manage his assets. His frustration is palpable, but it's not the frustration of a newlywed navigating compromise. It is the anger of a controller whose subject is not conforming to his expectations. He believed that once they were married, she would be so grateful, so beaten down by the years of struggle, that she would simply fall in line. But Jenny still has a spark of her American independence, and that spark is an inconvenience to him. Every time she pushes back, every time she asserts her own desires, she is reminding him that she is not yet fully broken. And this may be what pushes him to consider his ultimate trump card. We must also consider the psychology of Jenny herself. Why does she stay? Why does she endure the endless disrespect, the lies, the control? The answer is complex and tragic. Firstly, there is the powerful human emotion of love. It is clear she genuinely loves Sumit, and love has a powerful way of blinding us to even the most glaring of red flags. We create excuses for the people we love. We rationalize their behavior. We cling to the good moments and ignore the mountain of evidence that something is deeply wrong. Secondly, there is the sunk cost fallacy. Jenny has invested over a decade of her life in this man. She sold her house, left her country, and alienated herself from her family and friends. To leave now would be to admit that this entire chapter of her life was a failure, a colossal mistake. That is an incredibly difficult pill for anyone to swallow. It often feels easier to keep investing, to keep hoping things will get better, than to cut your losses and face the devastating truth. Furthermore, Sumit has engineered her life so that leaving is a logistical and emotional nightmare. Where would she go? She would return to the United States in her late 60s with little to no savings, having to start her life over from scratch. The prospect is terrifying. Sumit knows this. He is banking on her fear. He has made her life in India just comfortable enough, and the thought of leaving just daunting enough that she remains in a state of paralysis. She is trapped not just by legal loopholes, but by emotional and financial blackmail. She is a textbook example of a victim of coercive control, a slow, insidious process that erodes a person's confidence and independence over time until they feel they have no other choice but to stay. Some might argue that this theory is too dark. that it paints Sumit as a Machiavellian villain when he is perhaps just a weak, indecisive man who genuinely loves Jenny but is terrified of his parents. This is the simple, surface-level explanation, the one the show's producers have encouraged us to believe. But it doesn't hold up to scrutiny. A weak man might lie to avoid confrontation. But would a weak man be able to sustain a complex, multi-year catfish operation? Would a weak man be able to live a complete double life, juggling a wife and a mistress in the same city? Would a weak man be able to so skillfully manipulate every situation, every conversation, to maintain a decade of control? No, these are not the actions of a weak man. These are the actions of a dedicated and highly capable manipulator. The weakness is a performance, another mask he wears to engender sympathy and lower Jenny's defenses. So, where does this leave Jenny now? She is legally married, living in a country where she is a foreign national, completely financially dependent on a monthly check from her home country, and emotionally isolated with her only support system being the very man who has engineered her predicament. She believes she has finally won the battle. She has the ring, she has the marriage, she has the man. She thinks the story is over and they can finally live happily ever after. But she is tragically mistaken. The story is not over. She has simply walked into the final room of the maze, and the door has clicked shut behind her. The power Sumit holds over her now is near absolute. He no longer needs his parents as an excuse. He no longer needs to dangle the promise of marriage. He has her. The chilling warning from our legal expert, Dr. Sharma, hangs over every scene we now watch. Every argument, every disagreement is no longer just a spat between a married couple. It is a potential trigger. It is a moment where Sumit could decide that the charade is too much work and that it's time to enforce his control in a more permanent and brutal fashion. He has both the motive, keeping her and her income in India, and now, thanks to their marriage, he has the legal means to trap her there if she ever truly tries to leave him. Seizing her passport is the final step, the checkmate in a game she never even knew she was playing. She is living on a knife's edge and is completely unaware of it. Her escape route, that little blue book with the American eagle on it, could be closed at any moment. This is the terrifying reality for many expatriates caught in abusive relationships. Their lifeline can be legally severed by the person they trusted most. This is not just a reality show drama. It is a terrifying cautionary tale about passport entrapment and the dark side of international romance. Her escape route could be closed at any moment. This is a terrifying reality for many expats. Share this video to raise awareness about passport entrapment. What is the #1 red flag you've seen in this relationship?